The van driver spotted me, stopped his vehicle, and asked me where I was going. He told me to jump into his van, and he dropped me off in front of a 2-story wooden building. "Go on up to the 2nd floor," he said. "The name of the woman who lives there is Rachel. Go talk to her for a while, and I'll come back for you." Rachel told me that she was half Russian, half Athabaskan, and had lived in Alaska long before it became a state, as she shared, albeit briefly, her background and Athabaskan spiritual traditions with me. She changed my life forever. "See that blanket on the wall? That blanket is very special in the Athabaskan culture. Being a blanket maker or a songwriter or having any occupation is a matter of great honor. You have to have permission from a songwriter to sing his songs because his songs contain his spirit. And when you are a blanket maker, you are forbidden to begin weaving a blanket unless you know you will live long enough to finish it. If you find out that you need to die, you must perform a ceremony with someone who will agree to finish the task for you, because you cannot leave one part of your work unfinished before you die. Otherwise, you leave a part of your spirit behind. Life is simple," Rachel said. "You are born into life to care for each other and for the earth, and then you receive word that your time is coming to an end, and you must make the proper arrangements to depart, leaving behind no unfinished business. You must make your apologies, pass on your tribal responsibilities, and accept from the tribe its gratitude and love for your time with them. Simple as that. Tomorrow night I go to a ceremony. A man is preparing to leave the earth." "How does this man know he is going to die? Is he sick?" I asked. "Oh," she said, "he went to the medicine man. The medicine man looked at his energy. His energy told the medicine man what was happening to him." "How does the medicine man know these things?" She seemed shocked at my ignorance. "Tell me," Rachel said, looking directly into my eyes. "How is it that you do not know such things? How can you live without knowing what your spirit is doing and what your spirit is saying to you?" She added, "Everyone goes to the medicine man to learn what his spirit is saying. Years ago, the medicine man said to me, 'You will have a broken leg soon if you do not walk better.' I knew he did not mean my physical walk. He meant that I was not honest because I wanted another woman's man. I needed to not see that man anymore. It was hard for me because I loved this man. But my spirit was becoming sick from dishonesty. I left this place for a while, and when I returned, I walked straight. Before meeting Rachel, I had not considered the power of our spirits as she had described it. I had never considered that we weave our spirits into everything we do and everyone we meet. Nor had I thought that my life choices expressed my spirit or affected my health. I now believe that power is the foundation of health. From 1983 to 89, when I was an apprentice, intuitive, extraordinary synchronicities helped teach me what I needed to know. First, I noticed that I was meeting clusters of people who were all coping with the same disorder. Before my decision to accept my intuitions, the people who contacted me had not shown up in any particular pattern. As I learned from my journalism teacher and as I now teach others, detachment is essential to accomplishing an accurate evaluation. Nothing causes more interference than the need to be right or prove that you can do an intuitive evaluation. I firmly believe that intuition, or symbolic sight, is not a gift, but a skill based in self-esteem. Developing this skill and a healthy sense of self becomes easier when you can think in the words, concepts, and principles of energy medicine. Our emotions reside physically in our bodies and interact with our cells and tissues. My indicator of an accurate intuition is a lack of emotion. For me, a clear impression has no emotional energy connected to it whatsoever. If I feel an emotional connection to an impression, then I consider that impression to be contaminated. The first principle, biography becomes biology. All our thoughts, regardless of their content, first enter our systems as energy. Those that carry emotional, mental, psychological, or spiritual energy produce biological responses that are then stored in our cellular memory. In this way, our biographies are woven into our biological systems, gradually, slowly, every day. We all have negative feelings, but not all negativity produces disease. To create disease, negative emotions have to be dominant, and what accelerates the process is knowing the negative thought to be toxic, but giving it permission to thrive in your consciousness anyway. For instance, you may know you need to forgive someone, yet you decide that remaining angry gives you more power. Remaining obsessively angry makes you more likely to develop a disease because the energy consequence of a negative obsession is powerlessness. Energy is power, and transmitting energy into the past by dwelling on painful events drains power from your present-day body and can lead to illness. The second principle, personal power is necessary for health. Power is at the root of the human experience. Our attitudes and belief patterns, whether positive or negative, are all extensions of how we define, use, or do not use power. Not one of us is free from power issues. We may be trying to cope with feelings of inadequacy or powerlessness, or we may be trying to maintain control over people or situations that we believe empower us, or we may be trying to maintain a sense of security. A synonym for power in personal relationships. Many people who lose something that represents power to them, money, a job, or a game, or who lose someone in whom their sense of self or power is vested, a spouse or lover, a parent or a child, develop a disease. Our relationship to power is at the core of our health. Consider the first principle that biography becomes biology. Together with this second principle, that personal power is necessary for health. Power mediates between our internal and external worlds. And as it does so, it communicates in a language of myth and symbol. Consider, for example, the most common symbol of power, money. When a person internalizes money as a symbol of power, its acquisition and control becomes symbolic of that person's health. When she acquires money, her biological system receives the signals that the power is coming into her body. Her mind transmits the unconscious message, I have money, therefore I'm safe, I'm secure. I have power and all is well. This positive message, transmitted in the biological system, generates health. Our lives are structured around power symbols, money, authority, title, beauty, security. The people who fill our lives and the choices we make each moment are expressions and symbols of our personal power. We often hesitate to challenge a person who we believe holds more power than we do. And we frequently agree to things because we believe we haven't the power to refuse. Learning the symbolic language of energy means learning to evaluate the dynamics of power in yourself and others. Energy information is always truthful. Healing from any illness is facilitated by identifying your power symbols and your symbolic and physical relationship to those symbols. and heeding any messages your body and intuitions are sending you about them. Third principle, you alone can help yourself heal. Energy medicine is a holistic philosophy that teaches, I am responsible for the creation of my health. I therefore participated at some level in the creation of this illness. I can participate in the healing of this illness by healing myself, which means simultaneously healing my emotional, psychological, physical, and spiritual being. Healing is an active and internal process that includes investigating one's attitudes, memories, and beliefs with the desire to release all negative patterns that prevent one's full emotional and spiritual recovery. This internal review inevitably leads one to review one's external circumstances in effort to recreate one's life in a way that serves activation of will, the will to see and accept truths about one's life and how one has used one's energies, and the will to begin to use energy for the creation of love, self-esteem, and health. The mother with depression and chronic neck pain is an example of someone with only passive power. This kind of dependent person feels she must acquire power from her external environment and from or through someone else. She thinks, consciously or unconsciously, alone I am nothing. Such a person seeks to acquire power through money, social status, political, social, military, or religious authority. In relationships with influential people, she does not directly express her own needs, but becomes skilled at tolerating or manipulating unsatisfactory situations. The most extreme type of acquisitioner is the addict. Regardless of the type of addiction a person has, their energy circuits are so thoroughly connected to the target that they no longer have the use of their own reasoning ability. Acquisitioners inevitably find using their intuition extremely difficult. So attached is their self-esteem to the opinion of their power target that they automatically negate any information that their own intuition transmit to them. Clear intuition requires the ability to respect your own impressions. If you need another person to validate your own impressions, you interfere tremendously with your ability to intuit. Because the very nature of passive power is power through attachments, it runs contrary to an acquisitioner's entire biology to release or detach herself from targets that are draining her energy. Active power types are quite different from acquisitioners. They are self-motivators. They believe that self-care is a priority, and their energy circuits are attached to awareness, strength, and emotional stamina. A self-motivator is able to do whatever is required to maintain the balance of body, mind, and soul. Develop the habit of evaluating the people, experiences, and information you allow into your life. Developing symbolic sight begins with intention. Consciously and regularly evaluate your interactions and their influence on your emotional and physical power. And remember that if you have a private agenda, that is, if you want to see things in a certain way, you will interfere with your reception of energy information. Conduct energy self-evaluations on a daily basis. After you become skilled at it, self-scanning will only take a few minutes. When you discover an energy leak, focus on only the essentials that can help you recover your energy. Always address the question, why am I losing power? Your fifth task is to learn what rather than who draws power from you. Understand that the person who seems to be drawing your energy is actually only a reflection of some part of yourself. For instance, if you are jealous of someone, the important issue for you is not that specific person, but the shadow side of your nature as it is reflected in that person. In effect, that person serves as your teacher. Concentrating on the person of whom you are jealous will not heal you. Your task is to learn the lesson that the teacher has for you, rather than to resent the teacher. When you erroneously conclude that a specific person is the cause of your feeling depleted, you are slipping into fear and blame. Think of the illness as a power disorder, almost like a technical malfunction. Seek to believe only what heaven has issued as essential. For instance, all circumstances can be changed in a moment, and all illness can be healed. The divine is not limited by human time, space, or physical concerns. Be consistent. Live what you believe. Change is constant. Every life goes through phases of difficult change as well as peace. Learn to go with the flow of change rather than try to stop change from occurring. Never look to another person to make you happy. Happiness is an internal, personal attitude and responsibility. Life is essentially a learning experience. Every situation, challenge, and relationship contains some message worth learning or teaching to others. Positive energy works more effectively than negative energy in each and every situation. Live in the present moment and practice forgiveness of others. Our spirits, our energy, and our personal power are all one and the same force. The 7 sacred truths that these traditions share lie at the core of our spiritual power. They instruct us in how to direct the power or life force that runs through our systems. In effect, we embody these truths in our 7 power centers. They are part of our internal physical and spiritual guidance system. At the same time, they are a universal external guidance system for our spiritual behavior and for the creation of health. Our spiritual task in this lifetime is to learn to balance the energies of body and soul, of thought and action, of physical and mental power. Our bodies contain an immanent blueprint for healing. The early cultures that created these divine mythologies were exploring their emotional and psychological natures and the powers inherent in the human spirit. The thread common to all spiritual myths is that human beings are compelled to merge our bodies with the essence of God, that we want to have the divine in our bodies, in our mental and emotional makeup. Today, many spiritual seekers are trying to infuse their daily lives with the heightened consciousness of the sacred, striving to act as if each of their attitudes expressed their spiritual essence. Such conscious living is an invocation, a request for personal spiritual authority. It represents a dismantling of the old religion's classic parent-child relationship to God and a move into spiritual adulthood. Spiritual maturation includes not only developing the ability to interpret the deeper messages of sacred texts, but learning to read the spiritual language of the body. As we become more conscious and recognize the impact of our thoughts and attitudes, our internal life upon our physical bodies and external lives, we no longer need to conceive of an external parent God that creates for us, and on whom we are fully dependent. As spiritual adults, we accept responsibility for co-creating our lives and our health. Co-creation is in fact the essence of spiritual adulthood. It is the exercise of choice and the acceptance of our responsibility for those choices. The 7 sacred truths transcend cultural boundaries. and at the symbolic level they constitute a roadmap for our life journey, a roadmap imprinted in our biological design. Again and again, the sacred texts tell us that our life's purpose is to understand and develop the power of our spirit, power that is vital to our mental and physical well-being. Abusing this power depletes our spirit and siphons the life force itself out of our physical bodies. Because divine energy is inherent in our biological system, every thought that crosses our minds, every belief we nurture, every memory to which we cling translates into a positive or negative command to our bodies and spirits. It is magnificent to see ourselves through this lens, but it is also intimidating because no part of our lives or thoughts is powerless or even private. Each chakra represents a spiritual life lesson or challenge common to all human beings. The first chakra is related to lessons related to the material world. The second chakra refers to lessons related to sexuality, work, and physical desire. The third chakra indicates lessons related to the ego, personality, and self-esteem. The fourth chakra reveals lessons related to love, forgiveness, and compassion. The fifth chakra implies lessons related to will and self-expression. The sixth chakra indicates lessons related to mind, intuition, insight, and wisdom. The seventh chakra refers to lessons related to spirituality. The many Eastern spiritual religions understood illness to be a depletion of one's internal power or spirit. The 7 sacraments were and still are sacred ceremonies that imprint the individual with, to use Christian language, specific qualities of grace or divine energy. Each quality of grace is unique to its sacrament. While the 7 Christian sacraments are now associated primarily with the Roman Catholic Church, other Christian traditions have maintained many of them, such as baptism, marriage, and ordination. Symbolically, each sacrament also represents a stage of empowerment that invites the divine directly into a person's spirit. The sacraments provide symbolic tasks for growth into spiritual maturity and for healing. They are also concrete in their depiction of what we must do at major stages in our lives to accept the personal responsibility that comes with spiritual maturity. Our challenge as spiritual adults is to accept symbolically, fully, and gratefully the family into which we were born. Symbolically, baptism also means honoring your family and yourself by forgiving family members for any pain they caused you during your childhood. The power contained in such forgiveness is precisely the power that heals the body. The 7 sacraments and their symbolic purposes are as follows. Baptism, to receive or bestow an expression of grace representing gratitude for one's life in the physical world. Communion, to receive or bestow an expression of grace in the form of a host that represents holy union with God and with the people in one's life. Confirmation, to receive or bestow an expression of grace that enhances one's individuality and self-esteem. Marriage, to to receive or bestow a blessing, making sacred a union with oneself. Symbolic of recognizing and honoring the essential need to love and care for oneself in order that one can fully love another. Confession, to receive or bestow the grace to cleanse one's spirit of negative acts of will. Ordination, to receive or bestow the grace to make sacred one's path of service. Extreme unction, to receive or bestow the grace to finish one's unfinished business, not just before death, but as a daily part of one's life, thus allowing a person to love in present time. The symbolic power of the 10 Sephiroth. Keter, the energy of the divine that flows into physical manifestation. Hokmah, the energy of wisdom and the contact point between the divine mind and human thought. Bina, the energy of the Divine Mother, symbolic of understanding and the intelligence of God. Chesed, the energy of the love and mercy of God. Gavura, the energy of the power of judgment. Tifereth, the energy of compassion, harmony, and beauty. Netzach, the energy of the endurance of God. Hod, the energy of the majesty of God. Yesod, the energy of the procreative force of God. Shekinah, the energy of the mystical community of Israel, symbolic of the mystical community of humanity. The 10 Sephiroth are the qualities of the divine that also form the archetypal human being. These qualities are interpreted both as the essence of God and as paths by which we can return to God. Each quality represents a progression toward a more powerful revelation of the names or faces of God. Often the 10 qualities are described as the garments of the king. Garments that allow us to look directly at the king's source of divine light without being blinded. If a person's spirit is impelled by fear, then fear returns to her energy field and to her body. If she directs her spirit in faith, however, then grace returns to her energy field and her biological system thrives. All 3 traditions hold that releasing one's spirit into the physical world through fear or negativity is a faithless act of choosing personal will over the will of the heavens. In Eastern spiritual terms, every action creates karma. Each attachment that we hold on to out of fear commands a circuit of our spirit to leave our energy field. And to use a biblical phrase, breathe life onto earth, earth that costs us health. 3 truths are common to these spiritual traditions and to the principles of medical intuition. 1. Misdirecting the power of one's spirit will generate consequences to one's body and life. 2. Every human being will encounter a series of challenges that tests his allegiance to heaven. These tests will come in the form of the disintegration of one's physical power base, the inevitable loss of wealth, family, health, or worldly power. The loss will activate a crisis of faith, forcing one to ask, what is it, or who is it, that I have faith in? Or into whose hands have I commended my spirit? Apart from such major losses, the trigger that causes people to seek deeper meaning in psychological and spiritual ascension is usually a physical disorder that creates a personal or professional earthquake. We all tend to look upward when the ground beneath our feet shifts out of control. To heal from the misdirection of one's spirit, this is 3, one has to be willing to act to release the past, cleanse one's spirit, and return to the present moment. Believe as if it were true now is a spiritual command from the book of Daniel to visualize or pray in present time. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, we enter R. For a spiritual adult, the sacrament of baptism as a symbol carries 2 other commitments. First, we have a spiritual need to accept fully our family of origin as having been divinely chosen for teaching us the lessons we need to learn in this lifetime. Second, we commit ourselves to accepting personal responsibility for living honorably as a member of the human tribe, for doing unto others as we would have them do unto us, and for respecting all life on this earth. By fulfilling those 2 commitments, we are, in essence, baptizing ourselves and honoring our own lives, reneging on this commitment. By, for instance, viewing our family of origin in negative terms depletes a great deal of power from our energy system because it opposes the higher truth within the energy system. Level 2. The merging of the partnership chakra, the sacrament of communion, and the Sephiroth of Yesod. The power created by these 3 archetypal forces transmits into our systems the sacred truth, honor one another. From the partnership chakra, we receive the power to act with integrity and honor within all our relationships, from marriage to friendship to professional bonds. This energy is particularly active because it resonates in all financial and creative activity. Integrity and honor are necessary for health. When we violate our honor or compromise it in any way, we contaminate our spirits and our physical bodies. Everyone in your life plays a role essential to your development. Your challenge is to become mature enough to realize and live by this truth. It is unnatural from a spiritual perspective to view people as enemies or to be an enemy yourself. Negative relationships generate negative energy, which blocks symbolic sight. We cannot see the divine purpose in a union that we choose to interpret negatively. Symbolically, Yesod represents our energy need to form sacred unions with other human beings, unions of which the continuation of life springs. Intimacy is itself a form of sacred union, and the Sephiroth of Yesod naturally draws us to those with whom a sacred union is possible. Level 3. The merging of the personal power chakra, the sacrament of confirmation, and the Sephiroth of Hod and Netzach. The power created by these 4 archetypal forces transmits into our system. The sacred truth, honor oneself. All 4 of the archetypal forces at this level direct us to develop self-esteem and self-respect. The chakra contains our survival intuition, our sense that protects us when we are in physical danger and alerts us to the negative energy and actions of other people. We violate this energy when we disregard our gut instincts. The symbolic meaning of the sacrament of confirmation is the acceptance of responsibility for the quality of person we become. The ability to glean intuitive guidance from one's own spirit rests on a strong sense of self and on respect for that self. Equally significant is the role of self-esteem in healing and in maintaining a healthy body. When we lack self-respect, our relationships with others are temporary and fragile states of intimacy. We continually fear abandonment because the terror of being alone drives our actions. To confirm oneself, to consciously develop and acknowledge a personal code of honor is crucial to the creation of a healthy body. There is no health without honor. The symbolic meaning of the Sephiroth of Netzach is endurance. The power to maintain strength and stamina beyond the capacity of the physical body alone. This power awakens when we accept our life as it is. We lose this power when we focus on what is missing from life, or when we see life as empty and meaningless, and need to learn to accept our personal responsibility for having created it. The symbolic meaning of the Sephiroth of Hod is majesty or integrity, energy that allows us to transcend the limitations of self and awaken our spiritual connection with divine authority. Level 4. The merging of the emotional power chakra, the sacrament of marriage, and the Sephiroth of Sephiroth. The power created by these three archetypal forces transmits into our systems the sacred truth. Love is divine power. This energy center is the central power point within the human energy system, the symbolic doorway into our internal world. This energy of the chakra communicates to us the knowledge that love is the only authentic power. Not only our minds and spirits, but our physical bodies require love to survive and thrive. We violate this energy when we act towards others in unloving ways. When we harbor negative emotions towards others or towards ourselves, or when we intentionally create pain for others, we poison our own physical and spiritual systems. By far the strongest poison to the human spirit is the inability to forgive oneself or another person. It disables a person's emotional resources. The challenge inherent within this chakra is to refine our capacity to love others as well as ourselves and to develop the power of forgiveness. Symbolically, the sacrament of marriage brings into our lives the need and responsibility to explore love. First, we must love ourselves, and our first marriage must be a symbolic one. A commitment to attend consciously to our own emotional needs in order to be able to love and accept others unconditionally. Learning to love ourselves is a challenge to all of us. None of us is born loving ourselves. We have to work toward it. When we neglect ourselves emotionally, we not only become emotionally toxic, we bring that toxin into all of our relationships, particularly into an actual marriage. We are by nature compassionate beings who thrive in an atmosphere of tranquility and harmony. These energies are essential to physical health as well as to emotional development and acts of the heart. When the heart is not filled with the vital energies of love and harmony, no amount of money and power can keep it tranquil. An empty heart creates an empty life, often resulting in illness. Violations of the heart must be rectified, or healing will be impossible. Level 5. The merging of the chakra of willpower, the sacrament of confession, and the Sephiroth of Chesed and Gevurah. power created by these 4 archetypal forces transmits into our systems the sacred truth: surrender personal will to divine will. This surrender is the greatest act we can perform to bring spiritual stability into our lives. Every one of us has some awareness that we were born for a specific purpose, that life contains a divine plan. The 5th chakra is the center for that awareness and for our desire to make contact with the divine plan. As we mature, we all try to build our lives according to our own will. First, we separate from our parents. We establish our independence and we seek a career. Then, inevitably, some event or crisis occurs. Perhaps an occupation does not unfold according to plan, or a marriage does not work out, or an illness develops. Regardless of the specific crisis, we find ourselves in a situation that forces us to confront the limitations of our own inner resources that prevent us from successfully completing our plans. Once we are in that inevitable situation, we ponder some questions. What am I meant to do with my life? What was my purpose in being born? These questions set the stage for aligning our will to the divine plan. The most profound choice we can make. That one choice, made in faith and trust, allows divine authority to enter our lives and reorder our struggles into successes and our wounds into strengths. While we may or may not consciously desire to surrender our personal will to divine authority, we are sure to encounter numerous opportunities to do so. An incentive to make that choice lies in the life stories and life struggles of people who experienced nothing but pain and failure until they said to God, "You take over." Extraordinary acts of synchronicity then filled their lives and new relationships, their hearts. I have yet to meet the person who ever regretted saying to the divine, "All yours." Symbolically, the sacrament of confession communicates to our systems the knowledge that it is against our natural design to distort truth. Lying is a violation of both body and spirit because the human energy system identifies lies as poison. We are not designed to be critical of others or ourselves. We think ill of others only out of fear. The Sephiroth of Gavura, meaning judgment and power, transmits into our energy systems the awareness that we should never intentionally judge another person or ourselves negatively. Negative judgments create negative consequences, both in the body and in the external environment. Level 6. The merging of the chakra of the mind, the sacrament of ordination, and the Sephiroth of Vina and Hokma. Power created by these 4 archetypal forces transmits into our systems the sacred teaching, "Seek only the truth." From the mind chakra, we receive the energy to search for answers to the mysteries we encounter. It is by divine design that we ask why and want to know more today than we did yesterday. The energy pulsating from this chakra continually directs us to evaluate the truth and integrity of our beliefs. As we instinctively know from birth, to have faith in anything or in anyone that lacks integrity contaminates our spirits and bodies. The energy from the 6th chakra is relentlessly pushing us to let go of perceptions that are untrue, when we act against this energy, consciously blocking deeper truths from entering our mental field, our perceptual system clouds over. The sacrament of ordination, in the literal sense, is the act of being made a priest and officially taking up the life task of challenging the sacred. No matter our life task, healer, parent, scientist, farmer, good friend, we can become vessels for divine energy. Symbolically, we attain ordination when those with whom we live or work recognize that the contributions we make are beneficial to their personal or spiritual growth. Striving to become supportive and non-judgmental of the people with whom we live or work creates a channel within us for divine energy. People who radiate this supportiveness and love are rightly recognized as possessing ordained energy. They are vessels of divine intervention. Each one of us has the potential to become such a divine channel, to be of service to others by reflecting sacred energy, which is a contemporary definition of priesthood. The more we can release our learned tendency to judge, the more we open our minds to a quality of understanding that is divine in origin. Human reasoning can never answer the mysteries of our lives. It can never explain the complexity of why things happen as they do. We can achieve a genuine sense of peace about life only by releasing our need to know why things happen in terms of human reasoning and by embracing divine reasoning. Let me know what I am able to know and trust that behind all events, no matter how painful, there is a reason from which good can come. Level 7. The merging of the chakra of the spirit, the sacrament of extreme unction, and the Sephiroth of Keter. The power created by these three archetypal forces transmits into our system. The sacred truth: live in the present moment. Because we are essentially spiritual creatures, our spiritual needs are as crucial to our well-being as our physical needs, maybe even more so. The spirit chakra tells us that our spirits are eternal. We are more than our physical bodies, a truth that can comfort us during the many closures of life that are part of the human experience. Our body's apparent relation to chronological time is only an illusion, one that our spirits are tasked with revealing. It is unnatural to our divine design to let our thoughts live for too long in the past. Such an imbalance creates time warps that interfere with our ability to live in the present and receive spiritual guidance each day. That guidance will make no sense to us if we focus only on unraveling the mysteries of yesterday. If we live fully in the present moment, the mysteries of yesterday will gradually be revealed for us. The energy of this sacrament gives us the ability to release our past experiences in order not to carry the dead with us. The power and symbolism of this sacrament is therefore not limited merely to the end of life. Biologically and spiritually, we need to bring all things to closure, and we can call on this sacramental energy to help us do so. After any painful and traumatic experience, we always receive internal guidance that can help us release the past and move on with our lives. When we choose to keep the past more alive than the present, we interfere with the flow of the life force. We distort the present because we begin to view everything happening today through the past, thereby weakening our bodies and spirits. We become diseased from carrying the dead with us for too long.